Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, OnScreen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to OnScreen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be covering John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, as well as Violent Night, because that's right, it is the Baba Yaga Effect Part 3, because we've done this twice before with each one, where we paired it up with a movie that was somewhat inspired by it or marketed in a similar way to the way like John Wick kind of changed action movies. And we're on to Chapter 3 now. So John Wick 3 and Violent Night. We also have some stuff coming up on the horizon that we're going to talk about. And in our On Tap segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about One Piece, the anime, not the live action, which isn't out yet, but the anime, because I just finally caught up on the anime. And I have a few things to say. Let's get started, though, with our On the Horizon segment. On the horizon. So first up on the horizon, Samba de Amigo Party Central is coming out on Tuesday, August 29th on the Nintendo Switch.
I know that's a day one for you.
Never cared about the franchise.
I've never played one of those games. I'm sure they're fun. Rhythm games, never played it.
Yeah. Sea of Stars also comes out on Tuesday, August 29th.
That game looks incredible.
This time to the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, and Switch, as well as your toaster and that mole that you're a little bit worried about on your left arm.
Are you going to be getting that?
For the mole, yes. I don't know. I think I'm kind of spoken for when it comes to video games this year.
Yeah,
my plate's full.
Yeah, same. My plate's full. But man, it is a game I'm looking forward to because I do love a good old school RPG, and it also has some of the most gorgeous sprite art I've ever seen in a video game. It's incredible.
Yeah. Next up on Wednesday, August 30th, Archer is returning to FXX. Then on Thursday, August 31st, One Piece, the live action series, is coming to Netflix. We already said we're going to cover that at some point in the future.
You're the resident
check that out.
One Piece aficionado here, so I am really going to be interested in getting your take on this live action series.
Well, it'll be interesting to talk about it with you because I'll be coming from it from a perspective of somebody who's read the manga, watched the anime, and you'll be coming from it from kind of a fresh perspective.
Yeah, I'm only casually acquainted with One Piece.
The 4Kids dub.
I've watched a couple episodes when it was on Cartoon Network. I read some of the early chapters of the manga through Shonen Jump when they were doing the English version of Shonen Jump in the US and releasing that monthly. That had One Piece chapters as part of it. So I'm a little familiar, but I haven't I never really seriously got into it or followed it very closely.
And I'm sure you've probably just absorbed some just from the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna have a deep analysis of how this compares to the anime or the manga or whatever.
That's going to be interesting because apparently Ichiro Oda took a bunch of breaks when he was doing the manga this past year. And the reason he cited is because of his supervision role on the Netflix series. So he's not just kind of passing the buck, he's actually paying attention.
He's not just putting his name on it or his approval on it and just
cashing the checks.
Cashing the checks.
No, apparently he's taken a pretty active role in his supervisory role of the series. So hopefully that's a good thing. The track record for live action anime has not been good. And if you wanted to set the bar for degree of difficulty for an anime or manga to adapt to live action, One Piece is pretty near the top.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we'll get into it more when the show drops, I think. But I mean, it's just manga and anime is really designed to be live action.
So heightened.
Yeah. It's not designed to be live action. So, I mean, that's really where the challenge comes in.
Having watched Scott Pilgrim again, I think Edgar Wright might do a pretty good one for some type of anime or manga adaptation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because he actually made Michael Cera look tough. And how do you do that? That's impossible. Next up, Disenchantment returns for its final season on Netflix on Friday, September 1st. I think I'm going to watch it, but I don't think we're going to cover it. I don't think we covered the last one.
I thought we covered the last one.
Did we cover the last one?
I'm pretty sure we did. I remember.
I don't even know if it's worth paying so much attention to. To me, it looks like the kind of show I'm like for now on for this last season, something I just put on in the background while I'm doing something else.
Like when the last season ended, even though the story wasn't concluded, I really did kind of feel like, if they never made any more of this, I'm fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I'll watch it again, but I'm like I said, I'm probably just going to watch it while doing other things.
It was never something it's not something I hate. I enjoyed it. It's very competently made. There's some good stuff there. It never reaches the heights of The Simpsons or Futurama at all.
Yeah, the writing's really inconsistent too.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I think that's probably the biggest problem. There's most of the jokes just fall flat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's fun enough that I could totally see myself putting it on while maybe while I'm working on a graphic in Photoshop and I just kind of have it on in the background or something,
Yeah.
But that's Friday, September 1st on Netflix. Also Friday, September 1st, but on Amazon Prime, The Wheel of Time returns for its second season. This is a decently done fantasy series. I'd say it's better than The Witcher on Netflix.
But that's not hard.
Yeah, that's like I said, not a hard, it's not great fantasy, but it's
right.
decent, and it looks like they're stepping it up a little on season 2. I think they're kind of new showrunners, and I think they made a few mistakes, and hopefully they're going to kind of course correct with this second season. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I'm going to check it out because I love fantasy, so I watch pretty much anything, but I stopped watching Witcher.
I stopped watching that too. There's just no point. It's like they clearly do not care, so why should I care?
Yeah.
Is my attitude.
Then, also on Friday, September 1st, Trine 5, A Clockwork Conspiracy is coming to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, PC, and Switch. Trine 2 was one of the early games I got on Wii U.
Nice. I think I got that too, but I haven't played any of them.
I played Trine 2 a little bit, but I haven't played any of the other ones. But it's interesting that series is still going and that it's still supporting Nintendo systems, because even on Wii U, that game was pretty impressive, graphically for its time. So I got to imagine they're doing a lot. Even though it's a side scroll, there's a lot of detail in the background and stuff. And then, lastly, there's a little indie game coming out on Friday, September 1st as well. I don't even know if it's really worth mentioning, because nobody's going to play it. Nobody's really even heard of this game. But this game's called Starfield, and that's coming on Friday, September 1st to
you mean
Xbox.
Sea of Stars? We just talked about that game.
No, this is a different game, I guess. Going to Xbox Series X and PC on Friday, September 1st. Whatever that game is. Well,
that's going to probably be one of the games of the year. For sure. It's
game of the year wise, I actually thought about this, so I want to say it, is that I was sure it was going to be Tears of the Kingdom was going to win everything for game of the year. But now I'm starting to think, because you know how it is as a Nintendo fan. Whenever publishers that are not Nintendo-based publishers, Nintendo content-based publishers do game of the year and they give it to a Nintendo thing, it's begrudging. They really don't want to do it. But they feel like they have to. And I think the leader right now is going to actually be Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I think it is too.
That's been getting a lot of attention. And I think any excuse not to give it to Zelda, they're going to do.
Well, Zelda's an anomaly because if I look at the mainstream coverage, even people who don't cover Nintendo, they don't treat it like a Nintendo game. They treat it like the other games they cover. Which is, I guess, a testament to what they've managed to do with Zelda. But
yeah, but I said, any excuse not to give it to a Nintendo game, they're going to take. And I think I don't know, from what I'm seeing from Starfield early on, I think it's probably going to be a typical Bethesda game, which means there's going to be some issues. And
typical Bethesda games win Game of the Year, so it's
yeah, but I think it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3.
I think it might be Baldur's Gate 3 this year. I think you might be right.
The praise coming out about that game has been pretty much universal. So I think that's going to end up being it. I think it probably should be Tears of the Kingdom, but like I said, any excuse not to give it to a Nintendo game is going to be taken.
It should be Mario Wonder. Let's be honest.
That's the thing. We don't even know about that until that's October, right?
You know what the funny thing? Yeah, it's October. Yeah, it's October, and they announced Sonic Superstars, which is the first 2D 4-player Sonic game, completely made in the style of the new Super Mario Bros. Series, is launching 3 days before Mario Wonder.
Yeah, it's
1991 all over again.
It's marching to its death.
The last time, Sonic and Mario really went head to head.
Sonic's getting cream. Yeah, that's my prediction. Sonic is getting just toasted.
Oh yeah. Sonic's gonna get toasted by Mario. Sorry, the new Super Mario Bros. Games are fucking multiple million sellers.
Yeah. Okay, that is it for our On the Horizon segment, though, and now we're going to move on to On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap?
On Tap is where we talk about stuff we've been watching or playing, and I'm going to be talking this week about One Piece, and that is because I just caught up on One Piece. I just made it to episode 1073, which has me caught up now, which means the next episode comes out. I'm going to be watching it at the same time as everybody else. Now, that sounds like crazy. I just back-to-back watched over 1,000 episodes. No, I watched One Piece before. I just fell out a couple years ago, so it's over 100 episodes I had to catch up on. And I was able to finally do that. I was watching between 5 and 20 episodes a day just because I wanted to get through it quick. One Piece is finally, apparently, it's getting ready to come to an end. It's being rumored now for about 2024. That's what Oda, the mangaka of the series, is saying about when he thinks the manga series is going to end. And the anime series will be somewhere about 20 episodes behind that, so maybe 2025 for the anime to end. But we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. It really feels like it's coming to that point because, with One Piece, unlike with a lot of other kind of shonen, you look at something like Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, they start a new arc and something comes out of nowhere and it's a new threat and they have to build up and do that. That's not what One Piece is. One Piece is literally about circumventing the globe.
Right.
There's an end point that you have to reach. You just can't just keep going on and on and on. And along that path, there's touchstones. There's these are the most dangerous pirates in the world, and you hear about them early in the series. Well, now, Luffy and his crew are, fighting those people now. So it's they're at that stage where they're fighting these big shots we've been hearing about forever. So it's we're right there now. All the big stuff that's been being built up to is happening now. So the thing that's crazy about One Piece for people who aren't really avid shonen anime fans might not know is that manga series and anime, certain anime, specifically ones like One Piece or Naruto when it was on, or Dragon Ball for its time, aired every single week. So every week there's an episode of One Piece. There's no summer break. There's no hiatus. It's not it's 12 episodes a year or 26 episodes a year. It's 50 episodes a year.
Right.
It might take 1 week off here that there's something in Japan called Golden Week. And so it might take off for Golden Week. And then it might have another, just some random week off. So maybe 50 to 51 episodes a year of this show. It's absolutely crazy. A problem that comes with that is that you get some kind of mixed animation quality. And that definitely happens in One Piece. There are some episodes that just look straight bad. Around when I was catching up, the kind of stuff that I'd left off on and kind of said, okay, I'm going to jump back in here. It shows this dragon floating in the sky, and it's it's just a cell, and they're just kind of moving it around. It's not animating at all. It's it was really bad, and I was oh geez, this is kind of pathetic that it got that low. But then 2 episodes later, you'll see something that's just stunningly animated.
Right.
And it's shocking, and basically they're outsourcing to different teams, and they have their main team is usually the one that's not doing the best quality animation. animation, but they're also doing the most episodes. So they're like rushed and trying to get out as much as they can. And then every so often they hit like a really special episode and they'll call up like another anime studio to do the majority of the episode or the whole episode. And you get like a really stunning piece. And the perfect example of that is there is an episode, it's episode 1015. If you just have no interest in watching all of One Piece, but you just want to kind of see what some of the hype is about or something, that is one you could check out. It's episode 1015 of One Piece, is just like an absolute like masterpiece. It's gorgeous. Every choice is like perfect. Every like musical cue is perfectly timed. Everything about that episode is just stunning from beginning to end. They just went all out. And what I found out, the reason why for that is because I remember I was watching episode 1000 and I was a little disappointed. I'm like, I thought they were going to really step up their game for episode 1000 because it's the 1000th episode of an anime. How many animes get to 1000 episodes, you know? I'm like, okay, it's got to be a really good one. And it really wasn't anything to write home about. And what I found out is that the reason for that is that the manga chapter 1000 is what the anime episode 1015 is covered. And so that's where they put the effort, is they took the really good manga chapter that Oda did to celebrate 1000 chapters of the manga. And
Right.
instead of putting so much effort into animating just some random episode in the line with their anime episode 1000, they focused on what was done for the actual manga as the 1000th chapter and adapting that and putting so much effort into making that like spectacular. So that's why that episode is so good. But yeah, it's a fun series. You gotta check it out. And there's a really cool thing that just happened recently that's been hyped up to hell. There's clips of it all over the internet. Everybody's been hyping it up for weeks and weeks. Monkey D. Luffy got his new transformation, and it's kind of wild. It's basically, as Looney Tunesy as One Piece already was, his transformation basically makes him like a Looney Tunes character, like straight up. And it's weird because it gives him the power to basically make the world like his Looney Tunes creation. And it's like way overpowered in like a world like it's crazy. It's really interesting. And, I can't wait to watch more of the current battle that's going on with that when the next episode comes out next week.
Nice. Sounds really cool.
Yeah. And of course, we also have to mention, as I did before, but the One Piece live action adaptation is coming out. It's nowhere near where the anime is at right now. This is the beginning of One Piece stuff that's going to be coming out. And, that's going to be hitting, as we mentioned in our On the Horizon segment on Thursday, August 31st. And we are going to be covering that and talking about that show in full spoilers as well at some point down the line. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in One Piece. And like I said, if you just want to check out an episode and go like, what's this all cracked up to be? Check out episode 1015. But that is it for our On Tap segment. And now we're moving on to full spoilers. We have two movies we're talking about in full spoilers today because we are doing the Baba Yaga Effect Part 3, which means we are covering John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum as well as Violent Night. If you've been with us through the other Baba Yaga Effect episodes that we've done this podcast, we'll like cover a John Wick movie and then we cover like something else that's either influenced by or like marketed similarly to. It's like in that same sphere as John Wick, which has changed action movies as we've mentioned on previous Baba Yaga Effect episodes.
What did we do with the first John Wick? What did we watch?
We didn't pair it with the movie for the first one, but we paired it with a discussion about like what they were doing with the action stuff.
Yes, okay. So that's why I can't remember a movie. Okay, thank you.
And then for the second one, we paired it with Nobody.
Yes.
And we're doing this one for it's Violent Night for this one. And I think when we eventually do the fourth one, we're going to pair it with Sisu, which is like a foreign movie that kind of has very John Wick vibe to it. But yeah, let's start things off with John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. So you being new to the franchise and being new to this movie in particular, you just saw it. It's been a while for me, but you just saw it. What do you think about this movie? How does it rank up compared to the other ones? Like, what's your basic general impression?
You know what? It's very positive. I really enjoyed this movie. I would probably rank it higher than the second one just because like it goes deeper into the lore and it really sets up, it really like establishes the table as like the primary antagonist of the series. You got this woman who comes in who's working for the table. She's an adjudicator, and she's like a very threatening, like antagonistic presence, even though she doesn't get involved in any fights in the movie.
Yeah, she's not like an action character. She's just like a character with power.
Yes, and very clinical. And of course, like, the fights in this are as good as they've ever been in the series. God,
yeah.
like, so many good fights.
Every movie, the quality of the fights just keeps escalating.
Yes.
It keeps pushing it. Like, it's, you watch it and you're like, where are they going to go with the next movie? Because they can't beat this. And then the next movie comes out and they totally beat it. It starts off in this movie. There's like this crazy fight between John Wick, Keanu Reeves' character, the titular character, and this very tall man in a library.
Yes, it's because it's continuing off of the last movie where he's been excommunicado, which means he's fair game. And
there's like a bounty on him, so.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bounty on him. And so, like, everybody's suddenly trying to collect.
Yeah. And so it's just everywhere he's going, there's just people, like, standing up from random crowds and, like, following him and stuff. And then action scenes are picking up left, right, and center. And like I said, it starts off, John Wick is going to a library. He's hidden some stuff inside of a hollow book in a library, and he's retrieving that stuff, and he ends up getting caught by a giant of a man, and you end up with like just an interesting fight. Like, I think that's another thing they do really well with the John Wick fights is that they always try to kind of add in a new element. And in this fight, this first fight of the movie, really, they added in the element of like, how do you fight somebody who's just so much taller than you, just has so much more reach advantage over you? And it's just a pretty crazy fight with a really brutal end.
Oh god, yeah, like he like fucking breaks his jaw with like a fucking book. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. I do want to say, like, the main action villain of this, the main villain he fights in the action sequences, Zero, is like a really cool villain. And like, I especially
he's kind of weirdly funny.
Yeah, he's got a sense of humor to him, which I like. Towards the end, when John Wick is racing towards the Continental and he's racing Zero, and then, like, he flies off his bike and he gets, like, to steps of the Continental, and Zero corners him. But John Wick, like, has his hand on the bottom step, and that's enough for Sharon to come out and say, you know, like, oh yeah, no, he's on Continental grounds now. You need to put down your weapon. So they both go into Continental, and Zero is like, oh man, like, I've always loved you.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan.
I'm such a big fan. And man, seeing you in person, you do not disappoint. It's so funny.
It's also like John Wick will sit down and he'll sit like right next to him. And then John Wick like moves and sits further away. Oh, yeah.
I think it's like his ability to switch to that and then to switch to like all business and being so good, it makes him like such a great villain.
Yeah, he's kind of the central action villain of it.
Yes.
But there's so many interesting action fights. This movie has Zero's underlings are the actors from the Raid movies.
Oh, okay.
And so they have like, that's the ones he's fighting that like help him back up after he fell down the one time.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, such an honor, you know?
Yeah, it's such an honor to be fighting John Wick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that fight was just brutal and really interesting and cool. And then they introduced the element of like the horse racing and bike fights, motorcycle fights.
Oh yeah, the scene where like he's on the horse and like they're riding up on him with the motorcycles. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, this movie is like full to the brim with very creative set pieces.
Yeah. They try to go like, what can we do that's new? And then they add these new things.
Like at the end there when he's fighting Zero's goons in the Continental and he's in this room, this hallway with all these glass displays and they throw him into pretty much every single one.
I like it because, like, they'd be fighting him, and then they'd give him a chance to get back up, and he'd just be kind of holding out a finger like, just 1 second.
yeah, just 1 second.
And he took off his belt, and he was fighting with his belt then. Yeah, there's all sorts of, like, crazy things. I think the big gimmick they added to this one for the fight scenes is the introduction of fighting alongside dogs.
Yes. He turns to Halle Berry's character Sophia for help because she takes him to, like, I guess somebody who knows how to reach the head of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And her thing is, like, she has these dogs with her. And so they meet with this guy who I think is Bronn from Game of Thrones. I'm pretty sure it was.
It is,
yes.
Yeah. The character is Barada.
Barada, thank you. Yeah, they meet with Barada, and predictably it goes south when he shoots Sophia's dog in front of her. Thankfully, the dog is not injured because it's like it was wearing like body armor and he managed to shoot it in the armor. But then the fight breaks out and then, yeah, the dogs get involved. The dog like bites Barada's freaking crotch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, the dogs are vicious, man. And the way they're
Yes,
used,
they
like,
are.
in train scenarios, like, Halle Berry's character will, like, whistle and, like, point, and the dog will just dash off in that direction, subdue somebody instantly, and then, like, jump into a car window or run up, like, a 10-foot wall or something. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and it's really fun to watch. That's, like, kind of the new gimmick of this movie, like, action fight-wise, and it doesn't disappoint. It's really good.
No, absolutely. I gave like basically a summary of like what I thought of this, but what did you think?
So my feelings on John Wick as a series is that story-wise and just kind of, I think with each entry, it's getting further away from the core of its like emotional story anchor, which from the first movie.
Right,
Each one, it just gets more and more kind of absurd and moves away from that. But at the same time, with each one, like we mentioned, the action sequences keep getting better, the ideas, the set pieces keep getting better, the cinematography keeps getting better. So like all the technical aspects of it get way better, like markedly better with every single entry. But with every single entry, it gets further and further away from the emotional
Yeah, it seems
core.
like with every entry, they seem to just like be building out further and further, like the world building at the expense of that emotional core.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think, with the third one is, because I think the fourth one brings a little bit of that back. A little bit. It's not completely, but a little bit of that back. You haven't gotten there yet, but like, I think so. In my opinion, the reason I'm bringing that up is that the third one's like the peak of that like absurdity and the peak of being as far away from the emotional core as the series gets. It's like, that's like the peak of that aspect of the movie. So there's a part of me that just thinks this is maybe my least favorite of the movies because of that. But there's some stuff I really like in it as well. I'd probably say it is probably my least favorite of the movies, but there are some really cool scenes in it, so that kind of makes up for it. It's a fun watch, but it's like less meaningful, I think, than either of the other two you've seen so far.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's still fun to watch, so it's got such amazing action scenes. This franchise is just crazy. I can't wait to discuss the fourth one with you at a future date, so.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's move on from John Wick and talk about Violent Night. So Violent Night was kind of advertised as kind of like John Wick with Santa Claus.
Yes.
I think it has more in common. It's more like Home Alone meets Die Hard.
Yeah.
With Santa, like Home Alone meets Die Hard as enacted by Bad Santa. I don't know.
No, Home Alone meets Die Hard meets Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's got like all the murder and gore too, which is funny because like I just remarked on like when we watched Renfield how gory that movie was, but that made sense because that was centered around like a horror movie villain.
Yeah,
so Dracula. Dracula. So it had the horror vibe. This is Santa Claus delivering the gore, and it is not like supposed to be evil serial killer Santa. This is like supposed to be genuinely Santa Claus delivering like these gory kills.
Santa, now for now known as Nickamon the Red.
Yeah, Nickamon the Red. Yeah.
With his special, what's his hammer called? Skull Crusher or something?
Yeah, Skull Crusher. Yeah, his hammer. It's a weird movie. It's a weird movie because it's got that, and then it's got like the little girl. And again, like, they bring up Home Alone, like, really early into the movie, and then they do Home Alone with her. But of course, like, it's the gory version of Home Alone.
Yeah, it's like the quarter crew version of Home Alone, where they, like, edited together to make it like if Kevin was a psychopath and was killing these people.
Yes, yeah.
It's like that, man. It's like she's doing, like, the innocent kind of like, oh, I got them Home Alone stuff, but then, like, it's resulting in their deaths.
Right.
Not just being beaten up.
And she's not, like, being portrayed, like, as a sociopath or anything.
It's definitely a weird movie. There's also, like, when the movie ended, just to jump ahead, because we'll go back and talk about other stuff too, but when the movie ended, I was like, I don't know how I feel about the way this ends, because that family is fucking horrible.
Yes, they are.
And why did they end it with them like, oh, the whole family was saved, and they're just gonna go on, and, the grandma, the one with her own personal kill squad, she's gonna just go on, and she learns something about family, and, it's like, wait.
She learns the importance Lawrence of family. Yeah.
Like, this is one of the worst characters I've seen in a movie in ages.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't get, like, any comeuppance, even though she's horrible.
Yeah, most of the family is horrible. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, even, like, you know, the little girl, Trudy, she's, like, the one that's kind of really innocent. Her mom's pretty good. And then her dad is, like normal base level horrible character that's, like, on the protagonist side level. And then the rest of his family is just fucking horrid.
Yes.
Just, like, the worst. Like, I was kind of, like, hoping they were gonna die, you know, or get their comeuppance, or go to jail because, like, or something, you know?
It's funny because, like, the scene where his sister's, like, boyfriend, who's, like, a really freaking stupid action movie star.
Yeah, Morgan Steele.
Morgan Steele. The part where he escapes and he comes across, like, the kill squad, who's supposed to be working for their mother.
Gertrude.
And Gertrude. And he thinks he's saved and, like, they kill him. And it's like, yeah. It's like he gets what's coming to him because he was an idiot.
It's like you don't feel anything about him dying there. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. It's like I have less sympathy for them than I do for Scrooge, which is the nickname of John Leguizamo's character.
Yeah, who's like the ringleader of the operation. It's an uneven movie. Again, I think the family is mostly written horribly, but then I think they did a really good job with Santa and Scrooge as like, and John Leguizamo and David Harbour are really putting their all into those performances, you could tell.
Yeah.
And they both do so great with those characters.
Yeah, it was nice to see John Leguizamo in this. He's also in John Wick.
Yes, he's also in I think the first two John Wick movies.
But yeah, and David Harbour does a great job as Santa in this, and Trudy, the little girl, is truly adorable.
Yeah, she's adorable.
And you want to save her, protect her by all means, you know?
Yes, yeah, that works.
But man, like the rest of the family, it's just, no.
Yes.
What did you think about some of Scrooge and his gang? So you have Scrooge, this character that was so offended by what happened to him one Christmas that he turned to a life of crime.
Yes.
And then he had his gang. I didn't mark down all of the characters.
His gang is like similar to the family where they're all kind of just obnoxious idiots.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to Home Alone where they're really there to just like get killed and mangled in the worst ways.
Yeah.
And just be like obnoxious and hateful so you'll cheer when they do, get what's coming to them.
There's a few standouts. I think that Krampus, the guy nicknamed Krampus, is just completely fucked in the head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He just wants to torture and murder people.
I love it. Again, John Leguizamo's so great in this because he has the one line when Krampus, he brings out the giant nutcracker because they're going to crush Jason's balls in the nutcracker. Krampus is like, he rushes over to grab it for John Leguizamo, and John Leguizamo says something like, see, that's why I love sociopaths. They're open to trying anything. Yeah.
And then you have the pair of Gingerbread and Candy Cane, who actually have they have a cool scene with Gingerbread, Candy Cane, Scrooge, and David Harbour's character of Santa Claus, where they basically find out that he's real. And so you have a kind of a cool thing with them, and then those are also the two that are basically either killed, very seriously injured, or set up to be killed by Santa with Trudy's Home Alone traps. These are the ones that are suffering by her traps, basically.
Yeah.
Gingerbread's like this character, he's kind of like a boxer. He gets the worst Home Alone thing with the fucking nail going through the bottom of his jaw.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a bowling ball on top of his head.
It's pretty funny how they set up because she has this welcome mat with spikes on it set up and he sees it immediately and then he looks at the ladder and he sees the nail sticking out the ladder step and then he just calls up to her and says, little girl, booby traps don't work if you see them. And then he starts to climb the ladder but he doesn't realize that she sawed one of the steps in half and he steps on it and then he falls on the nail. It's funny because he thinks he noticed it and he's sidestepping it but he falls for it anyway.
Yeah, he goes right through him and then there's something, I think the way he ended up getting killed, I'm trying to remember, he was holding up something that had a nail and then a bowling ball fell down and knocked it into his eye.
Because one of the booby traps, because I think he manages to get his jaw, he manages to lift himself up off of the nail, and then when he gets off the nail, he falls off the ladder onto the mat with the spikes, which I think they were darts actually, glued to the mat or something. He falls onto that, and then he pulls it like out of his leg and he just like brings it up to his forehead and he's just looking at it. And then she releases the bowling balls and the bowling balls roll out of there and it falls on him, hits his hand, and drives it into his forehead. The dart he's holding.
It's so brutal.
Yes.
It's so Home Alone, but like in the brutal outcome way that like you imagine if Home Alone was real, it would be like a horrible, horrible, gory movie.
Right, yeah, exactly. And the fact that this is a really gory movie.
Yeah.
They do not hold back.
Oh, man. So I'm trying to think of what else I want to cover on. There's some cool stuff with Santa getting a hammer and going to town on some terrorists.
Yes.
Not terrorists, the kill squad and stuff.
Yeah, it's the kill squad when they got him, like, cornered. And it's funny because at that point, we've already established his backstory. We established that he had the hammer, Skull Crusher, and that he was really proficient with it.
He was a Viking before he became Santa Claus.
Yeah, he was a Viking, and he's in that shed, and he's kind of backed into a corner. Then he sees that sledgehammer, and then that's when he, like, really gets into the groove. Because at first, like, for the first half of the movie, he's kind of reluctant and struggling. The fights are really him just, like, struggling with the other person and eventually getting the upper hand. But as soon as he gets that sledgehammer, he turns into, like, a killing machine. He just starts taking out people with ease.
Yeah. It's funny because he's a disaffected Santa. Like, he's just not happy with the spirit of the holiday. Like, nothing's working well, you know?
Yeah,
like he's just like, I'm done.
It has the typical holiday movie tropes of, like, having somebody disaffected with the holiday. This time, it's Santa himself just, like, disaffected with, like, how commercial it is and just, like, how greedy people are. He's cynical because people only care about presents.
Yeah. So it's so weird that Santa finds hope for the holidays through, like, the worst fucking family in America.
To be fair, he finds it through Trudy.
Yes.
He doesn't really find it through, like, anybody else in that family. Let's be real.
Yeah. We gotta point out the most brutal kill in the movie, which is like the final. It's the climactic kill. So they timed it right.
Right. You're talking about, when he uses the Christmas magic to, like, go up the chimney, but he's holding Scrooge at the same time. Yeah. And since, like,
he a person gets bent in half and
because it's too narrow for, like, a person to actually fit through. Yeah, he gets
so graphic.
It's so graphic. It is crazy.
He just gets bent in half and squashed and just, it's like a pool of blood.
And his head, like, explodes or something, cause, like, when he comes out there, like, his head's not there. It's insane. Oh, it's also funny, the magic in this movie, whenever it comes up, it's just like the writers just took the tack of, like, going, it's magic, we don't have to explain shit.
Yeah, every Christmas magic, nobody knows how it works.
Yeah, like Santa himself says, it's Christmas magic, I don't know how it works. Santa himself can't explain it. It just is.
Well, that's Violent Night. One thing else to say is that there's a lot of stuff in it that feels like it's set up for a second movie.
Yes.
They're not like event-wise, like what he's going to be doing, but like we hear a lot about Santa's wife, and she sends him the sleigh back with his reindeer at the end of the movie, and sends him his hammer, Skull Crusher, with it, you know, and like leaves him like a note, and that's like a big setup to say, okay, yeah, so we need a sequel, and Mrs. Claus needs to be a character in the sequel, you know?
Right,
and
yeah.
We need these other things to kind of come back into play. So would you like to have a Violent Night sequel?
I guess it would depend on how they do it. Maybe.
I think it would be a fun watch. Like, it's not something I would pay for. It's not something, I have a movie theater subscription, as I've mentioned before, so I could just go and watch it and have fun. But yeah, like, it's not something I'd go like, oh, I'm gonna buy this on Blu-ray, or I'm gonna, pay for a ticket if I didn't have my subscription. Like, I probably wouldn't, but it's just kind of like a fun little time. Hopefully they have something better than a horrible, horrible fucking family.
Right, yeah, exactly. Try to, like, introduce some more sympathetic characters next time. Like, I think it could really use some more sympathetic characters in the main cast than like just the girl and like her immediate parents.
Well, it's also kind of weird because they did have one other sympathetic character that we barely met, and then he was killed.
Yeah,
and that was like the guard of the booth or
that's true.
The place.
Yeah,
who was very kind to Trudy, and Trudy was like, knew his name and was like saying thank you and stuff, and he gave her a big smile, and then she went in, and then he was like the first person killed by the gang.
He was killed by Scrooge. That was that was his introduction into the film. Was him killing that guard.
Yeah, as much as like they used it for his introduction, I think it might have been better served if he was like stuck in the room with the family and shit, as like the person who works for them that's actually way more decent than they are, to show that kind of thing. That's
again
like the weird thing with this movie.
Another small nod to Home Alone is that all the villains were posing as like staff in the house, just like normal staff, and they turned out to be villains. That's like a little nod to Home Alone, to where the first time you see the Wet Bandits, they're in the house pretending to be cops.
Well, the one is,
the one, they
Joe Pesci's character.
Joe Pesci is the one,
That's where he does a smile with the gold tooth, and
and then there's something up with this cop, right?
It's also got a bit of a Die Hard 2 vibe in the sense that, like the second Die Hard movie, where the team that's supposed to like be brought in to be against the terrorist ends up to be working with them.
Yes.
So it does really have that. So as much as we put this as a John Wick-esque movie for the Baba Yaga effect, it's much closer to like Die Hard and Home Alone, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, this isn't like so much of a John Wick style film.
I think this is a movie that probably got to be made because of John Wick, though.
Yes.
Like, I could imagine when this movie was pitched that the name John Wick was thrown around to pitch it. Because it was successful at that point.
Yes.
But yeah, and that's also part of the Baba Yaga effect. So, overall, what did you think? Like, what was your impression of Violent Night? Was it worthwhile?
I think I think it's worth putting on and watching for 2 hours. It's nothing amazing.
It had a few fun beats.
Yeah, it has a few fun beats. Again, I loved David Harbour and John Leguizamo in this film. They had the best performances. It's a weird film because tonally, like, it's all over the place. It's got like the violent horror movie kills, but then it's got the comedy, and then it's got the genuine heartfelt moments that you expect of like traditional
holiday movie. Yeah.
That like traditional holiday movies feel, where you kind of feel like this movie would mock those, but they really bend over backwards to try and include that stuff in this film as well. So it's kind of like all over the place tonally.
And I gotta say again, man, that fucking family, I swear, when I walked out of the movie, it just felt weird. There was like this weird semi-empty feeling in me when I walked out of the movie, because I'm like, did we really just make these characters the heroes at the end of the movie and shit? Like, like, what the fuck? They didn't get any comeuppance, they didn't learn a lesson,
they were the victims despite being horrible people.
Yeah.
I
guess so. But that is it for our full spoiler segment. Next week, we are going to be talking about Justified City Primeval Part 2, which will have just ended before we record the podcast. So that's what we're going to be going through, the last 4 episodes of that series. So, thank you everybody for listening. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up one of the container stories for one of these podcast episodes, go down to that last paragraph. You're going to see all the relevant links to our Twitter profiles, our official Facebook page, our official Twitter. Everything like that's all there. Our RSS feed, all of that is available in that location, so you can check that out. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast and Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as other content, is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.